Imagine someone asks you a simple question. How old are you? Now imagine you have no birth certificate, no calendar on the wall, no app counting down to your birthday. No one even wrote down the day you were born, because in most of human history almost no one did. So how would you answer? For the overwhelming majority of the people who have ever lived, that question didn't have a clean, numeric answer. Not because they didn't care about age. They cared enormously. Age decided when you could marry, when you could fight, when you were expected to lead, and when you were finally allowed to rest. But the precise number most of us take for granted, 34, 17, 61, simply didn't exist for most of human history. And yet somehow, every single ancient society on Earth still found ways to answer a question that mattered just as much then as it does now. Let's start with the most reliable calendar anyone ever had. The human body itself. Long before written records, the body was already keeping time, whether anyone was paying attention or not. Baby teeth begin coming in within the first year of life, and by early childhood, they're mostly complete. Then, around 6 years old, they start falling out, replaced one by permanent adult teeth, a process that continues in a fairly consistent order for years. And later, usually somewhere in the late teens, the final set arrives, the wisdom teeth. Ancient communities didn't need medical training to notice this. A parent watching a child lose their first tooth was watching a biological clock they could actually read. Bones told a similar story, just on a longer timeline. Throughout childhood and adolescence, human bones grow from separate sections connected by soft growth plates, and those plates gradually fuse together as a person matures, finishing sometime in the mid-20s. A body that had stopped growing looked different from a body still in the middle of it, taller, broader, structurally settled in a way that was visible without any instruments at all. It's actually the same biological signature that forensic scientists and archaeologists still use today to estimate the age of skeletal remains, sometimes thousands of years after the person died. But teeth and bones only tell you roughly where someone stands in the arc of a life. They don't hand you a number. So ancient humans needed something else, some way to actually count. And there's real archaeological evidence that some of the earliest humans were already trying to do exactly that. In southern Africa, researchers uncovered a small carved bone, now known as the Lebombo bone, estimated to be tens of thousands of years old, marked with a careful series of notches cut in a row. In Central Africa, a similar object called the Ishango bone shows the same pattern, deliberate, organized markings, not random scratches. Researchers who study these objects believe they may represent some of the earliest known attempts to track time, possibly counting days, possibly counting lunar cycles, possibly counting something we can no longer fully reconstruct. We can't ask the person who carved them what they meant, but the intention behind the object is unmistakable. Someone, tens of thousands of years ago, needed to keep count of something, badly enough to carve it permanently into bone. From there, the moon itself became one of humanity's oldest and most widely shared calendars. Across cultures with no contact with one another, on different continents, in different climates, people independently noticed the same thing. The moon changes shape in a steady, repeating cycle, roughly every 29 or 30 days. That made it one of the easiest natural events to count, night after night, without needing writing, mathematics, or any shared system at all. Many ancient people didn't count their age in years the way we do. They counted moons. Or they counted winters survived, since a hard winter was memorable, and living through one meant something. In ancient Egypt, time was tracked in an even more distinctive way, through the Nile. Every year the river flooded on a remarkably consistent schedule, depositing the fertile silt that Egyptian agriculture depended on completely. That flood became the anchor of the entire calendar. Years weren't necessarily counted from a fixed starting point the way we count from a single continuous year today. They were often counted relative to major events, especially the reign of whichever pharaoh currently sat on the throne. Someone might have known they were born in a certain flood season, during a certain ruler's reign, without ever converting that into a single tidy number the way we would today. And in a number of cultures, age wasn't really measured in individual years at all. It was measured in groups. Several societies, including a number of pastoralist communities in East Africa, developed what anthropologists call age-set systems. Instead of tracking each person's personal number, an entire group of people born within roughly the same window of years moved through life together, as a unit, with a shared name and a shared identity. One age set might become warriors together. Years later, that same group would transition into elder status together, as a group, at the same ceremonial moment. Your exact birth year mattered far less than which group you belonged to, and what stage that group had reached. It's a strikingly elegant solution to the same problem every culture faced. If you can't easily track individual years, track the group moving through time instead. For most people, without any of these systems, there was an even simpler method, and it's one humans still use instinctively today. Even with calendars sitting in our pockets, memory tied to shared events. Someone might not know they were exactly 22 years old, but they might know they were born the year of the Great Drought, or the year the old chief died, or 2 winters before the flood that everyone still talked about. Communities built a kind of shared calendar out of memorable disasters, ceremonies, and turning points, and a person's age became a story anchored to those events, rather than a number anchored to a written date. None of these systems were perfectly precise, and that's exactly the point. Precision wasn't actually the goal, usefulness was. A system that reliably told a community who was ready for marriage, who was old enough to fight, and who had earned the authority of an elder did its job completely, even without a single number attached to it. It's also worth remembering just how recent our modern obsession with exact birth dates actually is. For enormous stretches of even relatively recent history, ordinary people, not kings, not the wealthy, just regular families, often didn't know their own exact birth date either. Formal birth registration, the kind that produces an official certificate with a specific day, month, and year, only became widespread in large parts of the world within the last couple of centuries. Before that, plenty of people estimated their own age the same way archaeologists estimate the age of ancient remains today, from teeth, from bone development, from memory, from context, not from a document. And that connection isn't just poetic, it's literal. When researchers today examine ancient skeletons, they're often doing almost exactly what an ancient community could do just by looking at a living person, reading tooth development, checking whether growth plates have fused, and measuring bone density and wear. Modern science added extraordinary tools on top of that: chemical analysis, isotope testing, and radiocarbon dating that can estimate age with startling precision. But at the foundation, we're still reading the same basic calendar ancient humans always had access to, the body itself, quietly keeping time, whether anyone was counting or not. So the next time someone asks how old you are, and you answer instantly, without even thinking about it, it's worth remembering what an extraordinary luxury that actually is. For nearly the entire span of human history, that same question required a body to examine, a moon to count, a flood to remember, or a group to belong to. The number was never really the point. Knowing where you stood in your own life, that was the point. And humans found a way to know that, long before they ever found a way to count it. If you want more of the history nobody actually teaches you, subscribe, because next week's video is about a ritual almost every ancient culture had, even when they had nothing else in common at all.